you start up having sex twice a day, then you start once a week, then once every 2 weeks, then once a month. Then some people don't have sex once every 3 months, half a year.
Yeah.
So as the marriage goes on, because then that is not the defining thing of the marriage. It's part of it, but it's not all that it is. And a lot of you singles think that sex is like the number one or the number one up, like the top three things in marriage,
Mm-hmm.
which is not. I think there's something that we haven't even touched, and it's about sex in marriage. I think a lot of people have this idea that because I'm so attractive, at the beginning to you, that all through my marriage I'll feel that the same way. But man, that's another hour segment, because a lot of times single goes into marriage thinking that they're going to be hanging from the chandelier. It's not always
Uh,
it's
uh,
not always that way.
and I think that,
So
that's usually the,
that's another segment.
yeah, and unmet expectations is usually the number one cause for unhappiness in marriage. And if and usually when people get married, that's usually one of the biggest driving forces, is the attraction that you feel for each other. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think most marriages don't go past 2 years. After that initial 2 years burn off, and I guess the lust like subside, and then now you have to the reality of just dealing with day to day. And this person is okay. Well, I don't feel that initial burning desire for that person, and now everything that's wrong with them now becomes magnified. That's why after
Exactly.
2 years, most people are just like, okay, well, I'm just done. I know.
Right.
That's from what I've seen, from I've heard, and when I've done the research, that's what I've come up with.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of time people don't know how to change the expectation. Like, hey, you were hanging in a chandelier, now you can't hang in a chandelier anymore. Like, how do you move forward from there? They
Yeah.
keep going back to the same beginnings. Like, it has to be that way, it has to be
Yeah.
that way.
Well, I guess.
Like, that's the only thing that they know, it has to be that way, and they cannot move forward. That's what you say, after 2 years they leave, because then they are always thinking the grass is green. And look at these people, they look like they're having a great time, they look like he's treating his wife right. And then the thing about it is that they're having the same thing in their marriage too. And then when you have kids, your desires is not the same. Women goes through different cycles, and men go through different cycle too, so it's not always the same. So you have to realize that it's gonna start off like that, but in the end it might be you start up having sex twice a day, then you start once a week, then once every 2 weeks, then once a month. Then some people don't have sex once every 3 months, half a year.
Yeah.
So as the marriage goes on, because then that is not the defining thing of the marriage. It's part of it, but it's not all that it is. And a lot of you singles think that sex is like the number one or the number one up, like the top three things in marriage,
Hmm.
which is not.
and
Yeah.
That
and
is, that is
they
not.
put
That's
so much emphasis on that, and that's one of the
yeah,
things that we try to talk about. Well, I try to talk about in this show all the time, is stop focusing on things that are that don't really matter in marriage. For
yeah,
instance, and that's why I am against traditional dating, and people look at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, all this traditional dating, what you're doing is you are spending time building something that will not last. Like you're spending
yeah,
time doing basically foolishness, like all this uh underneath the stars, and what's your favorite color, and all the nonsensical things that go along with dating somebody, putting on this facade, and this guy is trying to be uber romantic, and you're trying to say put on all this makeup, and basically be somebody that you're not. And then when it's time when the marriage comes, and you quickly realize that, okay, well, we should have been talking about finance, and
yeah.
about kid, how we're going to rear our kids,
These
where
are
you want
kids.
to live, how do we deal with disagreements, those kind of things. Because in a nutshell, from what I've always seen and heard, a marriage is not going to be, it's not a vehicle for romance. That's not what it's for. Marriage is for duty. Marriage is for rearing kids. Marriage is
Kids,
to
yeah.
build a community. Like that's what marriage is for.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is really, really important. That is so, so important in marriage, because, you do all this, these people do all these things, before they're married, like all the flowers and going out to dinner and blah. And when you get married, you don't have the time to do all of that.
Mhm.
And so because you had it before, it's like, what happened? You used to do this and you used to do that. Yeah, because you had the time to do it, but now it's a different thing. And so at that time you were trying to get the woman or get the man, so you was dressing this way, and now that you have that person, you feel like, hey, I don't have to do that anymore because I already have you. And that's a wrong perception, that, like you said, a facade that people put on out there. And that's very important for people to understand that, because how long can you really continue that? You can't continue that for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You really can't keep that up for the rest of your life. And so that's very important. I also wanted to say, one very important piece of advice that someone gave to me on my wedding day, or shared with us on our wedding day, that I always hold dear, is that men don't read minds. And so you have to basically tell them exactly what you want,
Mhm.
because you think that, oh, he should know that I like this, or he should know that I like that, or a woman want this, or and in reality, the men just don't know. That's a woman thinking that way, but a man does not think that way. And women really need to understand that, a man cannot give you what he doesn't have.
Mhm.
You know, it's like we think that men are equipped to meet all of our needs, and men really cannot meet all of it, as the same way vice versa. We cannot meet all of our husband's needs at the same time too. And we cannot give each other just what we don't have. Like a man, if he's not built the way, um of being romantic, you know um that's something that has to be learned. And you have the expectation that my spouse is supposed to bring me flowers, or give me flowers on my birthday, or buy me a gift. But if you don't communicate that, your husband is not going to know. That's
Yes.
just that's a perceived, that's a perception. That's a perception that, hey, he's supposed to know that. But if you don't tell him, then how is he supposed to know that? You understand? So that's something that women, especially need to understand, that, like, you often hear, oh, my husband is supposed to make me happy. If you yourself are not happy, how you expect somebody else to make you happy? You have to make yourself happy.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
if you have to go take care of yourself, then you take care of yourself, and,
Yeah.
and stop waiting for your spouse to do that for you, because your spouse, that's not what he's supposed to do. He can add into that, but that is not his main job to do that for you.
That's what I tell people all the time. Like, I am not your entertainment director. Like, I am not
Mhm.
here to make you happy. I'm not here to do tricks, backflips. I highly suggest, I always tell people, oh, you want to get married? Whenever I hear couples say, this is my best, I am marrying my best friend, I always cringe inside. That is, to me, that's just cringy. Because I'm looking
Yeah.
at a woman, it's like, you're not going to want to do the same thing I want to do. I want to go racing. I want to go bike racing.
Yeah.
I want to go race my car. I want to go, to the gym. I want to lift heavy weights. I want to play basketball. These are the things that I really enjoy to do as a man. You want to talk about makeup and hair, and I don't want to do those things. And you don't
Yeah.
want to do the things that I want to do. And we
Exactly.
don't, we shouldn't have where you're putting that on me now, like now you're basically, air raping me because you want to talk about emotions, and you want to give me the latest gossip from the office and how Susie
Yep.
was dressing. Like, I don't care. I don't
Yep.
care. Like, go talk to your girlfriends about that. In the same way, if I tell you I just blew out one of the hoses from my turbo, and I'm talking about the newest one, and how this one is a corkscrew turbocharger versus a supercharger, you don't care. It's just pieces of metal to
Yeah.
you. So the same way that that's a piece of metal, yes, you care about me as a person. You might care how this might make me feel as a person, but you don't really care about the turbo. You really could care less. And that's what women have a hard time understanding. It's like, I could care less about, like I always tell people, you have a million emotions running through. I can't care about all your emotions. I
Exactly.
really can't. And I can't really understand them too, because I don't have as many emotions as you do. If you want a emotional tampon, go ahead and call one of your girlfriends. If you want somebody to fix something, or you're ready for me to play my role, you call me. It's only not until recently where we had these books and these movies where we got this notion of what a husband and a wife dynamic is supposed to be. Before this, the reason why marriages lasted because everybody knew their role. There wasn't this, we weren't putting all this unrealistic expectations on our partner. The women know what the role of a man was. It was to provide and protect. And the woman's role was to raise children. And we did that perfectly. Biologically, you're equipped for that. Biologically, I'm equipped to go and provide and protect. Now, when you want to put other requirements on me, God didn't equip me for all of that. Like he really didn't. So now I'm trying to have this to learn to be something that I'm not. And then you're putting so much pressure. And now I'm putting pressure on you. I already got corrupted because I've seen all of these graphic images with these women swinging from chandeliers. I'm putting that on you. And you're like, hold up, that's not me. And you're putting the same thing on me. Who said men used to give women flowers? And like, who came up with that idea? We're putting unrealistic expectations on our spouses.
I want something real quick. So when I got married, like maybe 3 or 4 years in, of course, I am a romantic person. I'm a very emotional person, and my husband is like kind of like the opposite. And so,
which is 90%. Well, I would say 99% of marriages, right?
Right. And so it's like, I would, you run the bathtub and you put the candles, and that's romantic to me. And so one day I asked him, I said, well, why don't you do these things? And he said, that's not romantic to him. And I was, I said, okay, well, that's good to know. And so I never, from that point on, I never looked for that, because I understood that even though I'm that way, I can do it. He said, if you want, you could do it, but it doesn't make me feel more in love with you. It doesn't make me more attracted to you by you doing that. I know for me, it's like, it just kind of set the mood or what's not. But for him, it did nothing. And so I was like, okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. And so I never looked for him to do that, because I understood at that time that doesn't do anything for him. And so I never looked for him to do that. But you have a lot of women, they look for it, and then their husband is not doing it, and they're upset inside that their husband is not doing it, but they never actually, verbalize that. Like, why are you not doing that? So he doesn't know that you're thinking this when he's thinking that way.
And then
I would say that men are like a microwave, women are like crock pots. It takes a lot to get us to the heating point. Men, they don't need anything, it's like zip. I mean, that's it. But women are different. And then once we realize the difference, a lot of compromising. You have to compromise, because not every day, he's gonna have the time to wait for you to heat up, and a lot of times you're not ready when he's in the microwave stage. I mean, it's like a lot of compromising, and people don't realize that. They think that, we're all going to be on the same page, we're all going to be ready at the same time. But as the marriage goes along, you'll find out that a lot of compromise, you're going to have to compromise,
All right, so as we kind of wind it down, you guys have any last bits of advice to leave for? I want you to leave 2 bits of advice. One is for single people who thinking about getting married, and the second one would be to the married couples that are already married, and would be to kind of like just give them one piece of advice that you think would be most helpful to them. So one is for the singles, and the other one is for the married couples. So who wants to go first?
So I can go. For the single people, I would like to say that
don't get married.
No, I would not. I'm not gonna say that. I'm just gonna say, ensure that that marriage is what you want. Be certain that that's what you want. prior to getting married, because you being single for so long, you have your own lifestyle, which is a lifestyle of independent. You're being independent.
And
Okay.
selfish.
And so, right. And so when you decide to get married, you give up some of your independence because now you're dealing with someone else. And, you know, you have to consult with someone else. When you could just jump in your car and go somewhere, now you have to kind of consult with your spouse. If you want to just book a trip and fly out for the weekend, you have to kind of consult with somebody else. And so just ensure that this is really what you want, and understand that, you know, you can't be single and married at the same time. So I can't live my single life as well as live a married life. It's either one or the other. You choose to just stay single for the rest of your life and party how you want to, answer to no one, or you choose that, hey, I really want to be with someone and have that companion for the rest of my life. So that takes me giving up being single and now having to deal with someone else.
Okay.
So, and just understand that. And then for the married couple, my advice is that it's a lot of work. There is no one size fits all. And you have to, after getting married, you still have to continue to work. The same way you work to get, you know, your spouse is the same way you have to work to keep your spouse. And so it's constant work on this journey. You know, people have been married for 50 years and you're still learning. And so you have to continue to learn. You have to continue to grow together to make things better, and be able to work together. Obviously, you got married because you want that companionship. You want to have a partner to work along with. And so remember that it's a partnership, a partnership that you work together. It's not all about what you want, but it's about what we want and how we can make this work. And so, you know, just talk about any and everything, whether you think it's important or not. Still just talk about it, as long as it's going to affect the both of you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
For me, for singles, I will tell them know themselves. Find out who they are. Find out what their baggage is. Find out things that trigger them. Do a deep analysis on you before you try to join to someone else. Because if you don't know you, and then you're bringing somebody into the situation to know you when you don't know you. So my advice is to single is to know yourself, know what you want, know what you can tolerate. I mean, have your boundaries, know your boundaries. And another thing is make sure that you respect marriage before you enter into marriage. Because if it's not a institute that you respect, don't go into it, because you're not going to respect it when you get into it. So get a lot of counseling, get a lot of advice. Talk to older people, talk to the younger couples, and those that have been in there 20 years, 30 years, 60 years, so you can have a round experience on what truly makes a marriage, so I would really tell them to start with themselves. And to the marriage people, I will tell them that give the person that you married time to get to your reality, because that doesn't happen overnight. That person is not going to get to the person that you want them to be overnight. So have patience, have love, encourage them. If you know for a fact you want to have a husband with a six-pack, I mean, give him a gym membership, encourage him to go to the gym, do little things to get where you want him to be, and don't make it a burden on him, because it's not his reality, it's yours. And another thing, that's how I learned through my years of marriage, is that give your spouse time to be angry. If they are angry, let them go through all those emotions. Do not answer. Do not do not get involved in the argument. Let them go through the argument. If they want to shout, whatever they want to do not argue with them. Listen, take that time out and listen genuinely to their concern. 2, 3 days, maybe a week later, you can go to them and say, after the situation has gone, you can go back to them and say, hey, you remember when you were mad about such and such? Well, this is what I thought, or this is you misunderstood me. By then, he doesn't even remember what he was angry about. So now he can listen to you. But a lot of time with marriage folks, this one arguing, this one is going to answer back. And then that's when it escalated, and then things get from bad to worse. So what I have learned, I mean, if I wished I'd learned it earlier, I'm only learning that now, that when my husband is upset, I give him time to be upset. If he want to yell, scream about whatever situation it is, his right. Let him yell and scream about it. But that has nothing to do with me. I'll just stay quiet, listen to him. And a couple days later, maybe weeks later, I'll come back and say, hey, remember that situation? This is what I thought. And then you know what? He can answer me without being angry, because then guess what? His anger has passed. So to me, that's my greatest. I wish I had learned that earlier. To me, that's my greatest advice to any marriage person. When one person is angry, that's enough. Let them get angry. And when they're done, 2 days, 3 days later, you go ahead and if you want to add something, you add something then. Don't add any coals to the fire while it's hot.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is some good insight from married people. These are the things that single people should be listening to. I always advise my single counterparts to take advice from people who are in a position that they would like to be in, because what we have a lot of these days is single people counseling single people. And I'm always saying, if me and you homeless, why would I take financial advice from you? Why? So we have a whole bunch of homeless people talking about, so how is homelessness for you? Well, this is what, like, it makes no sense. Why don't we go to the people who have houses and ask them, hey, how did you become a homeowner? And then so that we can get the path to eventually being a homeowner. So, thank you, both of you guys, for taking the time to, kind of enlighten us today. Do you guys have any last words that you would like to tell all our viewers today?
Yeah, I want to say, a lot of people have this nowadays, this kind of thing going on, like marriage is not good, marriage is bad. Marriage is good. It's good and it can be great, but it's how you make it. Your marriage is the way that you make it. You want it to be good, you want it to be great, you make it that way. You put in the work and make it that way. It's not a bad thing. It's a very good thing to have a companion and, to roll over and have somebody next to you and can rub your back and, to talk and be all intimate with. It's a very good thing, and be able to raise a family together and, even run a business together or what's not. So, it's a great thing, but you just have to make it great. You want it to be great, you make it great.
Marriage is the only vehicle for me in which is the best vehicle in which for you to have children and have a legacy, is within the confines of marriage. Anywhere else, then you have more of what we have in the society, which is baby mama, baby daddy, and we have seen what the results of that is, and we have seen that that's not the optimum way to raise kids and to leave a legacy. Lydia, any last words?
All I can say is start off right, you end up right. Consequences are something you don't want to get involved with. A lot of times people think that they can do shortcut into marriage. There's no shortcut. Like Marcy said, it can be great, but you're going to have to work at it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today on My Comfy Couch. And that's it. We'll say, thanks for having us, Lydia. Thanks for being on the panel, Marcia.
Thank you.
We hope to have you guys again for a follow-up where you guys will be, just spread some knowledge to some of the homeless folks that we have out here who's struggling.